Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another day. A windy, yet overclouded and miserable kind of looking day. But I had that much fun doing a video yesterday, I thought I'd do another one again today. Today we're going to look at taking some dwarf fruit trees and try and turn them into bonsai. Basically, we've got some in the garden that are no longer wanted, and rather than chuck them away, let's see if we can do some bonsai with it. So let's do bonsai. So this idea started with this dwarf apple tree that you can see here. It was taken out of the garden and presented to me by Kay, who said, save that if you want, try and do something with it. And I said, yep, I will cut it all back because the leaves were all rusty and horrible and not looking nice at all. So we planted it and cut it off here, 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 and took the tops off of all of that, and then all this new growth has come in afterwards. And obviously this stem would be far too long, so I thought, well, let's have a go and try and air layer this. And we put on this pack to air layer, and I don't know whether I can make out a bit of a root just there. I might just be seeing a bit of the moss, but potentially that's a little bit of a root. So we'll take that off shortly and have a quick look at what's going on in there, and then wrap it all back up and let it carry on. But interestingly as well, the rootstock stem of this has also pushed some flowers out, so it'll be interesting when we've taken this cutting away to find out what the original rootstock was from. I do have a little application on my phone which we can look at the leaves and try and find out what it was, so we'll do that as well when we come back to have a look to see if there's any roots coming out in this air layering. Now this has been like this for about 5 or 6 weeks. It is full of water, so it'll be good to open it up and let some of the moisture out. We also took this other apple tree and potted that one, and that is just trying to recover from being uprooted. It didn't come with many roots, so we're just going to see how that grows. We'll let it develop, let it do its thing, and going forward we'll probably take it back a ways and get some growth out of this, but that'll probably be sometime next year. So this is the dwarf fruit tree that we're going to be taking out of the garden today. There's lots of branches and stems on it. It does look rather loose in the soil, so it won't take much digging out. So we'll have a go at that, and we'll get it out and get it into a pot, and then I think we'll strip back some of these branches, and depending on what roots come out with it, we will either strip it back and air layer it today, or we'll let it grow forward and air layer it maybe next year, but we'll see what we get. So it's quite loose around the tree, so we'll just loosen it a little bit more, trying not to agitate other plants too much. A major root came off there, and it's coming up nicely, and we've got a good number of roots in that, So we'll get that into some soil and get it watered in. So the biggest part I can find at the moment that we've got is this one. It is rather thick, so the diameters are probably an inch smaller on the inside, but it's going to have to do for now. Now we have our cherry tree here, and it's sat in a bucket of soil. Pete wants to eat it, so I'm just going to drop it in to this pot, and then what we'll do is we'll just keep scooping soil in until we've got a nice full pot. Pete loves the soil. Should have called him Digger, shouldn't we? So we'll just shake that about, let it get into the roots. And it's good, nice, rich soil this, so potting compost type soil. This trunk already has some really strange, interesting movement to it that it's developed over the years, but we'll probably be looking to cut it back in a couple of places and see how we go with developing it as a bonsai. It's obviously got a long way to go, but they all have to start somewhere. We'll just pour the rest of the soil in, and then we'll give it a nice bit of water. So we'll come in with the hose pipe on shower setting and give it a nice good soaking, and let that soil soak nicely through. Got a nice big drainage hole in the bottom of the pot, so that'll drain away nicely, and hopefully that will sit in there good and well. So we'll take this over to the others, and then we can have a look and see whether our air layering has taken effect. So there they are, 3 dwarf fruit trees. One of them already had the air layering done. The one in the middle, we're going to let that grow for at least a year. And then the one on the left, we'd need to have a quick think about trimming it back and where we would do our air layering on that one. But let's look into the air layer that's already taken place and see if we have any roots. So here's our air layering ball. We'll just undo the twist wire that's protecting the top part of that, and we'll just try and open it up. We may need to undo the bottom bit, so we'll just take the bottom seal off and we'll unwrap it carefully, because we will need to wrap this back up. So we have the wet sphagnum moss there. It might be a little bit too wet, so we'll give that a little squeeze, releasing some of the liquid, and we'll just have a quick peek and see what's happening. We do have some cell change around a point here, but it's actually on the wrong side of where we want the roots. We want the roots to be coming in through from this top side up here. There does seem to be a little bit of root growth actually round the back. I will just try and quickly show you that. It's a very small bit of root growth, but it's a bit nonetheless. So just here, hope you can see it where I've put my finger, there seems to be a little bit of, no, so there's no actual roots, lots of, roots growing, so there's no roots growing at this moment in time. There does seem to be stuff looking like it's trying to produce something, but we'll just squeeze off the sphagnum moss a little bit more, because it should only be damp and this is quite wet. I mustn't have squeezed it off well enough when it first went on, and we'll wrap that around our cut point, and then we'll go again with the plastic. We'll get our little tie and tie that back off. And then we'll wrap back up at the top and get our twist tie back in position, and we'll leave that for a good while longer. So it can take up to a year for roots to develop. Sometimes it takes 6 to 8 weeks. It all just depends on the plant, the vigor of it, the strength of it, and this wasn't in a very good place. Maybe we should have let it grow like we are doing the other one. And having looked at that, I think what we will do is we will trim the other fruit tree back, get rid of some of the larger foliage, some of the branching, and let that grow for a little bit longer. Whilst we are on the air layering subject, this topiary conifer, it's seen better days, so what we're going to do is we're going to air layer this pretty soon, and let that sit and hopefully develop some rootage, so we can turn that also into a future bonsai. Could be interesting. There's lots of things going off in there, lots of branching. There'll be a lot of decisions to make in there. So there's no time like the present than to start making the changes to this tree, and we'll start taking the branches off and trimming it back to make it more compact and more manageable going forward. And this is only the first pruning that it will get. I'm pretty sure there'll be a good number of prunings going forward. So I'm going to take the leaves off. So similar to the other tree, we'll have just the stick. And hopefully we'll get a good bit of additional growth. So there we go, that's how we left the apple tree, basically a stick, and I think we've got just enough time for this to push out a quick growth of leaves to allow it to keep growing. So I think that's going to do it for today for those 3 little dwarf fruit trees. Hopefully they'll survive and do well. The original one that was cut back and air layered is growing well. We'd just like to see some roots come out of that cut point. And as for the other 2, we'll just let them grow probably until next year, and then come spring or just before spring we'll look to do the air layering then. I don't think I'm going to try and do it in the autumn, in the fall, after digging it up. I just want to try and give both those 2 a little bit of an extra chance just to bed in and set themselves down before we air layer them. So we'll continue to check the other ones, and yeah, we'll let you know. So once again, Scott Winard for Let's Do Bonsai, and sooner rather than later we'll see you again in the next one. Pete!